worship you. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle work, promise keep, light in the darkness. Yahuah, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle work, promise keep, light in the darkness. Yahusha, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle work, promise keep, light in the darkness. Yahuah, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keep, light in the darkness. Yahusha, that is who you are. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. Yahuah, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. Yahusha, that is who you are. 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 You are waymaker, miracle work, promise keeper, light in the darkness. Yahusha, that is who you are.
All right. Shalom. Shalom. Mishpaha. So it's our first fruits gathering today. I don't want it to be too terribly long. I know some of us are in the process of making our bread and things like that. So I don't want to take a whole lot of time up today, but I do want to have our fellowship. And I was going to go over some of the verses and the timeline of first fruits itself. And like we read in Jubilees, excuse me, yesterday, we see that Shavuot was the 15th of that third month. According to Jubilees, we count 50 days backwards from that. We will land at today, the 26th of the first month, first fruits. The same day Yahusha HaMashiach became our first fruits, our wave sheaf. Really, Yahuah amazing, honestly. Actually, it's Yahusha amazing, I should say. But anyways, Barak Yahuah. But shalom, shalom, sisters. We got Sister Kelly, Sister Rebecca, Sister Natalie, Sister Jermaine, and Sister Tabitha all here. Good to see you all. So I wanted to, well, first open up with some prayer. But I wanted to start out with the story in Nehemiah, specifically chapter 10. And I know we've talked about all this before, but it's interesting because this is where Nehemiah says, you know, this is written in the Torah to observe all these things. The interesting thing is we don't see a lot of the, like the heads of the months and the new wine and new oil and things like that mentioned in the Torah. But it is mentioned in Jubilees, showing that Jubilees, well, is considered Torah. At least to Nehemiah was. But anyways, let me open up with some prayer and we'll get right into it. Father Abba Yahuah, we come to you in prayer to thank you for this fellowship during your first fruits. And we thank you for sending HaMashiach, Yahusha, to come and be our wave sheaf offering, to be our atonement for sin when we repent and we turn to you and follow your ways. We want to thank you for having sent that example for us to follow. We're just so very appreciative. And I also wanted to ask for your guidance and your blessings as we read and study through your words. I also wanted to say a prayer for all of us who are struggling through different trials, tribulations, struggles, stresses, burdens, whatever it may be. We all need your help and we need your strength to be able to endure to the end. And I pray to you in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. Let it be so. All right. Hey, Sumi, and is Brandon there with you? But if so or if not, Shalom. All right, he's not there. He's working. Yeah. No worries. I figured. Shalom and welcome, though, sister. You're right on time, too. I know, apparently so. Stuck with the women today. Well, it's all good. No worries. Well, I will be keeping you and your family in Palau there, Sister Sumi. It seems there's a lot of struggles and things like that, especially this day. I know that, you know, different states are even going through different, you know, types of weather manipulation and things like that, like tornadoes in Michigan and hailstorms in, where are you at, Natalie? Indiana? Like, it's all over the place. The last couple days here, it was like super windy and overcast and all that too. But anyways, I will be praying for all of us who are affected by whatever it may be. You're in South Carolina, Sumi? Yeah. Or yeah, Iowa. Apologies, Natalie. Yes. I knew it was one of those I names. But definitely keeping everybody in Palau over all of that. So I wanted to, start out in Nehemiah, speaking about the first fruits at the time of the wave sheaf. And it's also going to go into all the other first fruits festivals as well. But it's starting here. Well, actually, I wanted to read 34 real quick because this is where it states it all. So Nehemiah 10, and we're starting in verse 34. It says, "We cast lots among the Kohanim and the Levites and the people for bringing the wood offering into the house of our Elohim, according to our fathers' houses, at the appointed times, year by year, to burn on the altar of Yahuah our Elohim, as it is written in the Torah." No worries, Sister Natalie. Yeah, lots of storms causing lots of internet interruptions. But anyways, we see the wood offering brought at the appointed times, year by year, as written in the Torah. Where do we see the different wood offerings and what specific types of wood to use and things like that? We find it in Jubilees. And continuing, verse 35, "And to bring the first fruits of our land and the first fruits of all of our fruit of all of the trees, year by year, to the house of Yahuah. Also to bring the firstborn of our sons and our livestock, as it is written in the Torah, and the firstlings of our herds and our flocks, to the house of our Elohim, to the Kohanim, attending in the house of our Elohim. And that we should bring the first fruits of our dough and our contributions, and the fruit from all kinds of trees, of new wine and of oil, to the Kohanim, to the storerooms of the house of our Elohim, and the tithes of our land to the Levites. For the Levites should receive the tithes in all of our rural towns." And so really, let me continue here because it will. I was going to say something, but I'll save it for after I read this. So, "And the Kohen, the sons of Aharon, shall be with the Levites when the Levites receive tithes. And the Levites bring up 1/10 of the tithes to the house of our Elohim, to the rooms of the storehouse." So we see here, even the Levites had to tithe 10% of what they had and put it in the storehouse. There's also somewhere mentioned that they also must tithe 10% of what they get to help the poor, the widow, the needy, and the orphan too. And I wanted to mention that because a lot of these, churches and things like that, the ones who say, the law is all abolished, don't worry about that stuff, it's not for us. Well, all of that, they say all of that, but then they talk about the tithe. Oh, you guys got a tithe, that's most important. So, they're saying the law is abolished, except for the tithe. But then when it comes to the tithe, are these churches and buildings and things like that given 10% of what they get to help the poor and the needy and things? I can guarantee most of them do not. But let me continue. So 39, "For the children of Israel and the children of Levi bring the offering of the grain, of the new wine and the oil, to the storerooms, where the vessels of the Mikdash are, where the Kohanim who attend, and the gatekeepers and the singers are. And we should not neglect the house of our Elohim." So Nehemiah is giving us just an overview of all the first fruits festivals that we should be keeping, and including the wood offerings as well. And so we're going to go into more here in Exodus 23, exactly what is first fruits, and specifically the wave sheaf first fruits is what we're speaking about. So this is Exodus 23:16. And the festival of the harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you have sown in the field, and the festival of the ingathering at the outgoing of the year, when you have gathered in the fruit of your labors from the field. 3 times a year, all your males are to appear before the Adon Yahuah. So verse 16 here is showing that, well, 2 of the main first fruits harvests that we have to do, one being today, the wave sheaf, which is associated with barley. And then we have the first fruits, also known as Shavuot, which is also associated with wheat. Also associated with gathering fruit from all the labors as well. And, well, wait, was that? No, that was Exodus. Sorry. Leviticus 23 here. I was like, wait a sec. Anyways, Leviticus 23 here, starting in verse 10, again, going to be about the wave sheaf with the instructions specifically on what to do. And it says, speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, when you come into the land which I give you, and shall reap its harvest, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the Kohen. And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahuah for your acceptance. On the morrow, after the Shabbat, the Kohen waves it. So we see it's the harvest, the first fruits of your harvest that you bring in, and you wave it as an acceptance, a wave offering before Yahuah. So you can bake some bread, you can wave it before Yahuah, and then you can give that to the poor, needy, widow, orphan. But then we're going to continue to read, and on that day when you wave the sheaf, you shall prepare a male lamb 1 year old, a perfect one, as a burnt offering to Yahuah. And its grain offering, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, an offering made by fire to Yahuah, a sweet fragrance, and its drink offering, 1/4 a hin of wine. And this is the interesting part here, and I know we've spoken about this quite a bit here, but it says, and you do not eat bread or roasted grain or fresh grain until that same day that you have brought an offering to your Elohim, a law forever throughout your generation in all your dwellings. So what this is saying is we basically cannot eat of that new grain until, we wave it before Yahuah on the wave sheaf day, which is today. And Heidi, or not Shabbat, I keep wanting to say Shabbat Shalom, but Shalom, Shalom, sister. Good to have you here. And again,
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And I just wanted to cover, what are some of the things we can do for the wave sheaf offering. And what I do is what I just mentioned. We bake some bread, we wave our first loaf, and it's a wave offering to Yahuah. And then we give that loaf away, to our neighbors or the poor, the needy, the widow, the orphan. You can also go and give, help out the poor, needy, widow, and orphan, by just giving your first fruits of what you earn to them as well. You don't have to give them a bunch of money or anything, but you can give them things to help them out. And I know one of the sisters was actually speaking about what I just did as well. making her bread and giving it to a widow who happens to be her neighbor, an elderly widow. So all of that, it is a sign of first fruits, which we're going to go into here next. Like, what are the fruits of the Ruach, the fruits of the Spirit, which should be our first fruits that we always show. And so this is going to be Colossians chapter 3, and we're going to start here at verse 5. And it says, "Therefore put to death your members, which are on the earth, whoring, uncleanness, passion, evil desire, and greed of gain, which is idolatry." So these are the rotten fruits that he's explaining right here. So because of these, the wrath of Elohim is coming upon the sons of disobedience, in which you also once walked when you lived in them. But now also put off all of these: displeasure, wrath, evil, blasphemy, filthy talk from your mouth. Even the Lashon Hara, this is what this is speaking about. But again, these are the rotten fruits. Do not lie to each other, since you have put off the old man with his practices, and have put on the new one, who is renewed in knowledge according to the likeness of him who created him. Where there is not Yahuanite and Yehudai, circumcised and uncircumcised, foreigner, Scythian, slave, free, but Mashiach is all and in all. So again, this goes, there's no Jew, no Greek, no male, no female, no stranger, none of that. If we turn and follow Yahusha, we are part of Yahusha. We are part of Israel. We get grafted in. And then this is where we get into the good fruits, what we should be showing as our first fruits. So therefore, as chosen ones of Elohim, Kodesh, and beloved, put on compassion, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, patience, bearing with one another, and forgiving each other if anyone has a complaint against another. Indeed, as Mashiach forgave you, so also should you. But above all these, love, which is a bond of the perfection, and let the peace of Elohim rule in your hearts, to which, indeed, you were called in one body, and be filled with thanks. So again, we see here, it's all a matter of our hearts. It's always been a matter of the heart. That's what circumcision of the heart is. Circumcising our hearts to follow Yahuah. Yahusha being our example to follow in this day. So yeah, these are just some of the first fruits we should be showing as followers of Yahuah. And then here we have 1 Corinthians chapter 13, and starting in verse 3. I know a lot of you probably know this one. I actually made a little short video about this quite a few years ago because, it's all about love and what love is. And it's really one of the first fruits that we should be showing. So 1 Corinthians 13, starting verse 3. And if I give out all my possessions to feed the poor, and if I give my body to be burned, but I do not have love, it does not profit me at all. Love is patient, is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not boast. It is not puffed up. Does not behave indecently. It does not seek its own, is not provoked, reckons not the evil, does not rejoice over the unrighteousness, but rejoices in truth. It covers all, believes all, expects all, and endures all. Love never fails. Whether Nebaoth, prophecy, they shall be inactive, or tongues, they shall cease, or knowledge, it shall be inactive. For we know in part, and we naba in part, prophesy in part, because we are in the flesh. But love is what overcomes all. We see that. It does not fail. Even after our tongues and prophecies become inactive, or knowledge, or anything like that, it still does not fail, because Yahuah loves us. And love really is the first fruits we should be showing to everybody. And then this one is Galatians chapter 5, and starting in verse 22. So, but the fruit of the Ruach is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, trustworthiness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no Torah. So there is no law against having any of this, is what he's saying here. This is actually to be following Torah, is to have all of this. And 24, it says, and those who are of Mashiach have impaled the flesh with its passions and the desires. Because right above here, it actually shows the desires of the flesh. All of these. Actually, I'll go ahead and read them. It says, the works of the flesh are well known, which are adultery, whoring, uncleanness, indecency, idolatry, drug sorcery, which is pharmakia, that word, hatred, quarrels, jealousies, fits of rage, selfish ambitions, dissensions, factions, envy, murder, drunkenness, wild parties, and the like, of which I forewarn you, even as I also said before, that those who practice such as these shall not inherit the reign of Elohim. So again, all of this can actually be included in Lashon Hara, which, we went over a bit yesterday as well. So these are the works of the flesh that we see right here. We have to overcome the works of the flesh and start showing the fruit, the works of the Ruach. And love is the first fruits of all of that. And let's see. And Shalom, Sister Tracy. Welcome, welcome. So I wanted to cover, just a timeline of first fruits, why it's important. And I know there are some different calendar followers that they have it on different days. And because a lot of them think that, when Yahusha, the day he resurrected, that's the first, when he became our first fruits. But this is not so. So we're going to just read through this, kind of covering, the timeline of first fruits. So here we're going to find in Jubilees that the 15th of the first month is that same day that Abraham was going to sacrifice Isaac, and that ram, or the male lamb, was caught in the bush. And it's starting in Jubilees 17, verse 15. And it came to be in the 7th week, in the first year, in the first month, in this Yobel, on the 12th of this month, There were voices in the Shamayim regarding Abraham, that he was trustworthy in all that he had told him, and that he loved Yahuah, and that in every affliction he was trustworthy. And then when we read it through to Jubilees 18:3, and actually if you read all of 17 and 18, it'll go a lot deeper into it. And we did cover that a few fellowships ago. I know we read the whole account there, but it shows that this is where, unleavened bread started, was right here with Abraham. But let me continue here. So Jubilees 18, verse 3. And he rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took his 2 young men with him and Yitzhak his son and cut the wood for the burnt offering. And he went to the place on the 3rd day, and he saw that place far off. So it was the 12th of the 1st month, and plus 3 days later, it would be the 15th of the 1st month, which is the high Shabbat of unleavened bread. And then Messiah became our first fruits on the 26th of the 1st month. And we're going to go over this as well. We're going to go over the exact timeline of that here in a moment, but I want to continue here to show why, his day of his rising, his resurrection, it was not the day he became first fruits. There was actually a 7-day period, technically 8, because on that 8th day, that would be first fruits. But this 7-day waiting period until first fruits was for 2 reasons. One of them is the 7-day ordination to become a priest. And really all of Leviticus chapter 8 speaks about the priestly ordination. But verse 33 specifically shows that, and do not go outside the door of the tent of meeting for 7 days until the days of your ordination are completed. For he fills your hands for 7 days. And again, we have to remember, so Yahusha rose on the 18th, towards the end of the day, and then, which was the 7th day Shabbat. Then on day 1 of that week, that's where Miriam saw him at the tomb. And he said, do not touch me, for I have not ascended yet to my Father. So what happened here, he ascended into the house of his Father for his priestly ordination. And then we have, because they followed Torah, that he was unclean for touching a dead body, because his spirit leaving his body would be considered touching a dead body. And remember, being unclean is not a sin. It's living in uncleanness and things like that that can be a sin, but just being unclean is not a sin. But why is this important? Because we're going to see. So Numbers 19, 11 through 12, he who touches the dead of any human being is unclean for 7 days. He's to cleanse himself with water on the 3rd day. On the 7th day is clean. But if he does not cleanse himself on the 3rd day, then on the 7th day is not clean. So this 3rd day and the 7th day, the 3rd day is the last day of unleavened bread, and the 7th day is the weekly Shabbat. Then on first fruits, that's how he became our first fruits. So I'll go through the timeline here for everybody. So right here at the top, this is the 14th of the 1st month, which is day 3 of the week. Messiah observed the Passover. And then he died on the 15th, which was day 4 of the week, before sundown. So in the counting of 3 days and 3 nights of Jonah, this would be night 1 of 3. Because he died towards the evening, that day didn't count. So that's the first night, night 1. Then we get to the 16th day, which is day 1 of 3. And then the night of the 16th, night 2 of 3. Then the 17th day, which is day 2 of 3, then the night of the 17th, which is night 3 of 3. Then, on the Shabbat day, which is day 7, the 18th of the first month, he rose just before sundown, the same time that he died on day 4. This is making it day 3 of 3 of that 3 days and 3 nights, like Jonah. Then, just before sunrise on the 19th, on the first day of the week, that's when Miriam saw him at the tomb and wasn't allowed to touch him. And again, that's Luke 24:1, Mark 16:1 through 2, John 21, Matthew 28:1. And this is the only reckoning that explains and fits all 4 of these accounts of John, Mark, Luke, and Matthew. So we see they observe Pesach here, day 3 of the week. On the high Shabbat of unleavened bread, this is where, he was hung up, and he passed just before the sun went down, day 4 of the week. So then we have the 3 days and 3 nights, where we end up on the Shabbat, the 18th, where he rose towards, again, sundown. Then the 19th, this is day 1 of, because he'd risen this day, so this is day 1 of the 7-day ordination count. This is where Miriam saw him at the tomb. He said, "No, don't touch me. I haven't ascended to my Father." So day 1, 2, 3, that 3rd day, just like we saw in Numbers 19 about, the touching of the dead body. So that 3rd day is actually the high Shabbat of unleavened bread for the last day. And then 4, 5, 6, 7 is that 7th day Shabbat. And so that 8th day where they would be ready, the priest would be ready, boom. He becomes our wave sheaf first fruits offering. And I think it's easier to explain visually like this, because then you can see, versus, just reading it through a text. But we see it all lines up, and it will only line up on the true calendar, the Zadok calendar. And so there are some who claim that Matthew 28:9 explains that Messiah was touched on the day of his resurrection. And this is seemingly contradictory to John 20:17, where Messiah told Miriam not to touch him. So we're going to go over this. So this is the Greek here in Matthew 28:9. It says, as they were going to report to his Talmudim that he had risen, it says, see, Yahusha met them, saying, greetings. And they came and held him by the feet and bowed to him. So this is a mistranslation, as we'll see. But John 20:17 says, Yahusha said to her, do not hold on to me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father. But go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, and to my Elohim and your Elohim. So he's saying, go tell them that, because they're not going to see him for that 7 days, not until first fruits. Then when first fruits comes, that's where they're all gathered together. Yahusha comes and appears and tells doubting Thomas, if he doesn't believe, then go ahead and touch him. That happened on the day of first fruits. But the Hebrew book of Matthew, specifically 28 verse 9, this is what it says. And while they were going, Yahusha went out to them to the way, saying, may El save you. Then they knelt at his feet and prayed to him. So this is showing that there is no contradiction, and it actually fits with everything else said. So this is what they do here in the Greek, is just a deception to try to hide things, try to hide what's going on. And I bring this up because there was a group of people who tried to use this to say, oh yeah, see, he was touched that day. Well, no, he wasn't. Because that's why the Hebrew books of Matthew and things like that are kind of important, because it clears up any little discrepancies that we may think are there, but they're not actually there. And so here we're going to go into the book of Daniel, where Daniel himself prophesies that HaMashiach, he would be cut off in the middle of the week. So what's the middle of the week? Well, we see right here, day 4, dead center. When was his death? Right here, day 4. So this is Daniel 9:25 through 27. And shalom, shalom, Andrea. Good to see you. Glad you can make it. Almost perfect timing. All right, so Daniel 9:25 through 27. Know then and understand, from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem, until the Mashiach, the Prince, is 7 weeks and 62 weeks. Oh, no worries. I feel you on that. But, sorry, let me continue. It shall be built again, with streets and a trench, but in times of affliction. And after the 62 weeks, Mashiach shall be cut off, and have not. And the people of a coming prince shall destroy the city and the Kodesh place. And the end of it is with a flood. And wastes are decreed, and fighting until the end. And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. And in the middle of the week, he shall put an end to the slaughtering and a meal offering. And on the wing of abominations he shall lay waste, even until the complete end, and that which is decreed poured out on the one who lays waste. So we know he offered himself up. You know, he became a curse to take on our curses. He was made an abomination to take all of that on, because he is our salvation. But the most important part here is he was cut off in the middle of the week. In the middle of the week is when an end was put to the slaughterings and things like that. Why? Because him ascending to the Melchizedek priesthood as our king and high priest, he is now doing all these slaughterings and offerings in the heavenly tabernacle as the Melchizedek priesthood. So we no longer have to do these things here on the earth. So there is a lot hidden here in Daniel, especially right here about Yahusha. So we see that he would be taken out in the middle of the week, which is day 4 of the week, and that his death will be a completion and fulfillment of the sacrifices, because after which all sacrifice and offerings shall rest. And this confirms Isaiah's prophecy that Messiah would offer himself as the Asham, the sin sacrifice. That's in Isaiah 53, verse 10. Also, John Yochanan, he testified that Mashiach was a lamb slain as an atoning sacrifice for sin, the Asham. So, I wanted to scroll down here because, let's see, hold on, let me find my spot. So, here it is, right here, sorry. So have you ever wondered why the Messiah couldn't carry that stake? He was badly beaten, and this is true. But do we honestly think that a man could prevail over the son of Yahuah? Yahuah himself? So could he not walk on water, disappear at will, survive 40 days without food, heal the sick, raise the dead, call legions of messengers to himself? So is it possible that the reason he couldn't carry the stake had less to do with his physical strength and more to do with keeping his father's command to observe the high Shabbat of unleavened bread? And which is why a Gentile was tasked with this burden. So Matthew 27:32, Mark 15:21, Luke 23:26. And again, we see it was the 15th of month 1 on the high Shabbat of unleavened bread, middle of the week, day 4. It's really profound how deep this all goes. But this is going to show, here Jeremiah 17:21 through 22, which also happens to show us that Jubilees is absolutely Torah, because this is only found in Jubilees, not in the quote-unquote 5 books of Torah put together by, yours truly, Rabbi Akiba. Yeah, no. But let me continue here. It says Jeremiah 17:21 and 22. Thus said Yahuah, guard yourselves and bear no burden on the Shabbat day, nor bring it in by the gates of Jerusalem, or take a burden out of your house on the Shabbat day, or do any work, and you shall Kodesh the Sabbath day, as I commanded your fathers. So we're seeing here, thus said Yahuah. This is a command from Yahuah himself. Bearing no burden. Well, where is that found? Where's this command found? In Jubilees. But it's also just, backing up that on not only the Shabbat day, but the high Sabbaths as well, we're not supposed to be carrying out burdens. This is why another man was tasked with carrying that burden. It's really profound. And then, if anybody is wondering, this is my write-up about the death, burial, and resurrection of Yahusha. Which, let me grab the link, actually. I'll share it in chat. Let's see. One second here. Just grabbing the link for everybody. Yeah, I am sure they would turn out great as well, Sister Sumi. We're all learning. Some of us, it's our first time, so we're all here to learn and to help each other out. But there's the link to my write-up here, and if you are watching on YouTube, it'll always be in the description there. And that's actually why I'm doing a shorter fellowship today, because I got to get making some bread. It's only, it was 1, so it's almost 2 in the afternoon here. So I was doing some work this morning. So my time to bake it is as soon as I am done with this fellowship. Still have hope. Of course. So I also go over, thank you, sister. I will plow for your bread as well. So I also go over, Miriam and them buying the spices and how it lines up. And it also proves that they were following the true calendar, the Zadok calendar, versus the Pharisees' calendar. So I go into a lot more detail about that here, but I highly recommend it. It's a good read. You know, I can probably just read it real quick because it's not even that hard. Here, I'll just read it right now. Sorry. Nice. Yours is in the oven now. There you go. So, Messiah's middle of the week death can be proven by the following actions of the women immediately upon his death. Look for the trail of the spices. So the women followed the body of Messiah as he was being laid in the tomb the day after his Passover, but on the day of the Jews' Passover. This is found in Matthew 27:61, Mark 15:47, Luke 23:55, and John 19:40 through 42. So this was on day 4 of the week, just before sundown, night 1. Then the next day was a high Shabbat, the Sabbaton, the first day of unleavened bread. Oh, that's right. I need to fix this because it wasn't for the Jews. You know what? I'm right here right now. Because it wasn't for the Jews. Because, yes, they observed Passover. And then on the Jews' Passover, well, the day of their Passover, just before sundown, this is why they wanted him put up, they wanted the people killed, then they wanted him taken down before the sunset, because their Pesach was starting at sunset. And this was a non-working festival day in Jerusalem, where buying or selling was forbidden. And the women were thus prohibited from buying spices on this day. It is important to understand that the Greek language does not have a word-for-word vocabulary equivalent to Hebrew. So they didn't buy these spices this day because it was actually a high Shabbat for them, the high Shabbat of unleavened bread. So, such is the case for the Greek word G4521, Sabbaton, when which it's translated into English becomes only the word Sabbath, when in fact the Greek Sabbaton is also employed to translate the Hebrew word Sabbathon. The unfortunate result of having English scriptures translated from Greek, which is translated from Hebrew, is that we inevitably lose the truth. And I believe it's done like that for a purpose. The English translation is not infallible, and the Strong's Concordance is not scripture, or is it a dictionary, and it has many errors as well. And we've gone over quite a few of these errors it has, such as the word Chodesh. Not once does Chodesh ever mean new moon, has nothing to do with the moon. All of that. We know that here. So, so every English scriptures translates the Greek word Sabbaton as Sabbath only. So they don't have a, like in Hebrew, so for a high Shabbat, it's Sabbaton. In Greek, all they have is the word Sabbaton for Sabbath and high Sabbath. It's not a different word to, distinguish the two. And this is what's led to the confusion and division about calendars. So the high Sabbath has become lost to us, and is profound and prophetic, and its profound and prophetic meaning along with it. Study the scripture below, which have been corrected for this error, and Yahuah willing, the picture of the women and what they were doing and when they were doing it will come crystal clear. Keep in mind that the term the preparation was an expression for Passover, not the preparation day before Shabbat. So John 19:31 through 33. Therefore, since it was the preparation day of the Jews, that the bodies should not remain on the stake on the Shabbaton, G 4521. For that Sabbaton was a high one. The Yahudim asked Pilate to have their legs broken and that they be taken away. Therefore the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first and of the other who was impaled with him. But when they came to Yahusha, they saw that he was already dead, and they didn't break his legs. So what this is saying here is not only was it the high Shabbat on the true calendar, but at sundown. So I kind of explained this before, people who follow the moon calendars or people who thinks the day starts in the evening, they say Passover is a high Sabbath because of that, because their day starts in the evening. Even though Scripture says it's the 15th of the first month, that's the high Shabbat, not Passover. They do it like that because it just blends in. So they're starting out their high Shabbat by slaughtering the Passover, which runs into the high Shabbat of unleavened bread. So this is why at sundown it would be their high Shabbat, which is why they wanted the men, Mashiach included, to be, killed so that they can be taken off before sundown so that they can observe their high Shabbat. And then Mark 16:1, when the Sabbath was past, Miriam from Magdala and Miriam the mother of Jacob and Shalom brought spices to go and anoint him. Luke 23:56, and having returned, they prepared spices and perfumes, and they rested on the Shabbat, according to the command. Luke 24:1-2, and on the first day of the week, at early dawn, they came to the tomb, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and they found the stone rolled away from the tomb. So this is, again, that event that played out. They were there at the tomb. They saw Yahusha had been risen. He said, "Don't touch me. I haven't ascended to my Father." This all just goes together very deeply in a very profound way that not a lot of people realize. One, because they're not on the proper calendar. And two, they don't really study too many things out for themselves, is the sad part. But yeah, I wanted to go over all that and just cover the timeline and things like that, because I know there were questions about it. Like, how is first fruits 26? And, I've heard, it was the day he was risen and things like that. So I just wanted to go over the proof and the evidence through Scripture. Why, saying first fruits is the day he was risen is just not accurate. There's a specific reason it's the 26th of the first month. And it's because, again, he rose just before sundown on the Shabbat on the 18th of month 1. This is where the women came to the tomb with the spices. He said, "Don't touch me. I haven't ascended." Day 1 of that 7-day ordination count. Again, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then that 8th day when the priests are ready. Why is he having a priestly ordination? Because he's becoming our king and high priest of the Melchizedek priesthood. This is that 8th day he would be ready to do his priestly duties from there on, which simultaneously becoming our first fruits, our wave sheaf offering. And yeah, the starter bread or the starter dough, big question. Well, to some of us that are new, it takes practice, really. And I know there's some veterans in here who've been doing it quite a while. But yeah, us who have only started doing it this year. We're still learning. I know we do have a tab, let's see, in our library group, it's called the fermentation tab. And we go over a lot of these things about how to create a starter. Yeah, it's definitely frustrating. It's it sure is. Especially if you're busy. Yeah, don't give up. We can troubleshoot, and it just might not be ready yet. Yeah, thank you, Sister Natalie. So yeah, I know Sister Natalie, Sister Jermaine. There's a few others here as well. Very good to go to ask any questions about starter. Yeah, ask questions in that fermentation tab as well, if anybody has questions. But yeah, just really a Barakoth day today. The day Yahusha HaMashiach became our wave sheaf offering, our first fruits. He was the first to rise from the dead. He overcame death. He took the keys to Sheol. Now he can open Sheol whenever he wants, which will be on Judgment Day. I shouldn't say whenever he wants, but he has control to open Sheol now. So on Judgment Day, he will open it up. That's where all the souls will come out, and everybody will be judged accordingly. And then we either make it to the new kingdom, or we make it into the lake of fire, according to our works. Yeah, that's right. The day. That is right. Thank you for reminding me of that. I know I put that in here somewhere. I did want to go over that too. Where is it? Hold on, let me find it. A lot of messages. Where is it? Unless you want to go over it, sister. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Yeah, that. So yeah. So from Exodus 15:22 through 26. So we're going to see the 22nd of the first month. All evening, Yasharel crossed through the Red Sea on the dry ground. Then the 21st of the first month, the High Shabbat, the last day of Matzah, third day of the week, at morning the waters crushed Pharaoh's army, and they were delivered, a celebration. Then they had the 3 days journey of no water, so that's the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And then they assembled the camp, set up their camp. And the 25th, the seventh day, the Shabbat, they are at Marah and find waters on Shabbat, but they are bitter, so they complain all Shabbat rest. So the 26th, the tree was thrown into the waters, and the bitter is made sweet. The picture of Yahusha on the wave sheaf, first fruits. And again, that's Exodus 15:22 through 26. And I'll go ahead and read that here. It says, And Moshe brought Yasharel from the Sea of Reeds, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. And they came to Marah, and they were unable to drink the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. So the name of it was called Marah. And the people grumbled against Moshe, saying, "What are we to drink?" Then he cried out to Yahuah, and Yahuah showed him a tree. And when he threw it into the waters were made sweet. And there he made a law and a right ruling for them. And there he tried them. And he said, If you diligently obey the voice of Yahuah, your Elohim, and do what is right in his eyes, and shall listen to his commands, and shall guard all his laws, I shall bring on you none of the diseases I brought on Mitzrayim. For I am Yahuah, Rapach, who heals you. Yeah, that very good one too. And thank you for that, Sister Natalie. That's a really awesome find. So again, we see it all lines up on the Zedek calendar. It does not fit on sliver moon calendars. It doesn't fit on full moon calendars. Any other calendar, this is not going to fit on. It doesn't fit on a Covenant Calendar Club's calendar. It doesn't fit on a Torah to the Tribes calendar. Any other calendar that's out there, this is not going to work. And we can see all throughout Scripture, the only calendar that fits what Scripture says is the one that was held by the sons of Zadok and Qumran, which goes off the sun, moon, and the stars. And I do have my write-up for that, just about the calendar too. Which, I will go ahead and share that link as well. One moment here. And I do have my original main write-up as well that just covers the sons of Zadok, who they are, proving the Book of Jubilees, Enoch, proving the calendar. I have it all in my main article. But this one I'm sharing all about Yahuah's luminary calendar kept by the sons of Zadok and Qumran. Is specifically only about the calendar, walking it all through scriptures, through the witnesses of the luminaries, all of that, historical evidence and facts. And also to those who will be watching on YouTube later, all the links to all my write-ups are actually in the description. Yeah, we can see we can see how very important Yahuah's festivals really are. We can see how important it is to get the dates right on the calendar as well. But anyway, let's see how long have we gone here. I do want to get to making some bread myself here. Been on about an hour. Almost perfect, because that's about how long I wanted to go, an hour or two. So yeah, if anybody has any other questions or anything they would like to add, feel free. If not, I think we might end it there for today. And then, of course, we'll have our midweek Midrash on Saturday. At the same time, we have our Shabbat fellowships. And we will be going over Hebrew, I think Luke. I'll have to double check on that, see which one's up next. But I believe we're in Hebrew Luke. Which has really been Yahuah amazing going through all that. And like I mentioned before, the Hebrew just gives more clarity and detail, especially on things where there's seems like there's a discrepancy in the Greek, but it's not in the Hebrew. Yeah, thank you, sister. No problem. All praise to the Most High Yahuah. Give it just a moment here. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I know a lot of this is important. I know a lot of people have questions about it. So I just wanted to cover it again. But
Tuda,
anyway,
I really appreciated the fruits of the Rook, and I think that's definitely where my heart is and what we'll be studying these next 50 days as we go into the first fruits to Shavuot.
yeah, absolutely. Very important because really the fruits of the Ruach is our first fruits we should be showing. So yeah, thank you for actually posting those, sister. Very good idea. Very good to reflect on too.
Yeah, it was not my original idea, someone else's, but happy to distribute the information.
Absolutely. We are known by our fruit, so it is very important. Exactly. What's the first thing people see? Our fruits. So yeah, I think we might end it there for today, Mishpaha. And I really love fellowshipping with all of you. You know, it's always such a barakov. And again, we'll have our midweek midrash on Saturday. We'll be going over the Hebrew New Testament. And I allow you all have a very Baruch rest of your evenings or your days, wherever you're at. And we will see you all on Saturday. Shalom, shalom, mishpacha, and much love to you all.